Welcome, everybody. As I was just saying, it's a very bad way to start a podcast, me taking up the entire screen. But it'll come a little bit more apparent later why I'm in the center between people. We have, what do you want to be known as?
Donald Trump.
Yeah. Donald Trump to my right, your left, your right. And
no, it is their left. We're seeing the mirrored version. They're going to see the regular version.
See, I was right, yeah. Okay. Good. As always, I am right again, but this is...
Daniel Brown. What up?
This is Daniel Brown, and today, instead of me being on his show, he's on my show, so I can kind of just wreck him the entire time. Yeah.
Shows on shows on shows.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just all work together, but not really. It's mostly just Daniel getting me to do things, actually making me not be lazy, but... He's actually here this time. He's not being lazy this time. He's actually working with me. And then we have his associate, Donald Trump, here.
I'm Ryan.
Okay.
Well, actually, Ryan's been on the show twice before?
I was on once. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, then you also went, last time we were on this porch, you snuck out here for a second.
Okay.
Do you remember any words you said?
No. I'm a mute.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you know.
Also, my chair is a lot higher than everyone else.
Well, you're also just taller than me, so I look especially like a midget now, but generally, yeah. No, Ryan is 7 feet tall.
8.5.
8.5 feet tall, I'm sorry. He towers above all of us. He is what most people would call the Superman, the Ubermensch, whatever. But today, we're not talking about radical... ethno-state ideologies such as that. We're talking about centrism. And the thing that made me think of this was, again, how Daniel and I have talked about how I get most of my political news and political how people think from Twitter. And everyone's kind of always arguing on there about if someone is given to one side or the other of the political spectrum, they'll go after somebody who's a centrist. They'll say it's because they're not, I guess, dedicated to it. They don't have any real principles for something. The centrists, or someone who at least calls himself that, will then say that instead of not having principles, they want to be more focused on pragmatism. And
so before we get too much farther, I really need to know what centrism is.
Well, that's a good question, Daniel, and I have no good answer. But centrism, I believe, is kind of what I think centrism is like what everyone aspires their ideology to be. Like, that is their ideal form of it. Because everyone always, no one generally thinks of themselves as the furthest...
As an extremist.
Yeah. No one normally looks at their ideology as the most extreme version of it. There's always someone else who's like, oh, well, they're crazy, and then everyone else on the other side just doesn't actually apply anything. But centrism would be, like I said, the thought that instead of having emotion, instead of having an emotional response to problems, instead of looking at it as a pragmatic thing, looking at it as, I guess... The whole thing, I was like, the reason why I started talking about started doing the show, where you want to take the best parts of everything. You want to take the best parts of a social, you want to take the best parts of it, either social conservatism or social liberalism, and then matching that with social or economic conservatism and economic liberalism. There's a lot of it came out of.
So this show is centrist. You want the best of everything.
Well, like I was saying, I like to look at myself as a centrist and the the ultimate arbiter of what truth is and everything. But centrism in the wording for that and the phrasing, I think I was reading before because I wanted to do some kind of research for this. It has a lot to do with Christian democracy, where they want to follow along with a free marketplace type of ideas. Free market of ideas, and then also just free market as far as goods. But then also have the kind of the controls on the market, the controls on to ensure what they would call a
You telling me Christians are all up in arms about this free market stuff?
Well, no, like it was after World War II where I think it started to come into use, and it's a like a reaction against again like a hardcore extremist view of something where like me I'd be more of just whatever laissez-faire capitalism, let people do whatever, and they don't want that. They do want to have some kind of a control over social issues, and then also the marketplace to try to dissuade people from cheating people or like using their power in a capitalist system to just run a smaller guy over or just run anybody over, and to like because we all are against someone like legitimately out and out cheating somebody, and except maybe Donald Trump, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I was playing this game of Uno the other day, and it came down to it. And sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to win. I, unlike Tim, have done no research. I haven't understood a word he said. I just am hoping to blend in here.
Well, you got to remember to point with the pipe. You gotta do that, and then you have to look away from the camera, look back, give them a little bit.
I also don't smoke at all. This is just for effect. I think I'm gonna vomit.
That's good shit. That's fine too for the podcast. That's why we did the video. But centrism, as far as if we're not talking about how everybody kind of wants to look at themselves as not being emotional for something, I guess the best definition would be just taking what they view as the best of conservatives' values and liberalist values.
Moderatism, is that?
That's what you said before, and I looked at it, and I think it's similar. It's the we don't want to go one way or the other. We don't want to.
So give me an example, like whether it's a politician or some religious leader, like what kind of things would they argue for if they're a centrist?
Like most. I don't know what would you call I almost said Billy Joel.
Harry Truman, Doris
Billy
Day.
Graham.
He said it. He said it first. He knew.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham. Okay, so they're like, they don't have because you and I kind of both come from a
Conservative.
Yeah, very conservative Christian upbringing. The Christians there will normally it's a much more hardcore Presbyterianism. The looking at the free market, they'll generally agree with saying that things like fraud or things like that should be punished. Therefore, stuff like copyright laws. Therefore, stuff like so they do have some balance to it. They don't just go for laissez-faire capitalism, but in their heads they kind of do. They will say that I want a completely free market.
So I think I'm finally starting to follow you here. If you're saying Billy Graham could be considered a centrist, right?
Yeah, I think so, because
I want to see if I'm right and why. Because he might have some conservative values. He might have some liberal values. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I think he's dead, isn't he?
I think he just recently died. Yeah.
But the reason he'd be considered a centrist is because he doesn't really push for any of that stuff too strongly. He's more of a just get people to believe. A lot of people love him, and he doesn't like he's not an extremist, like you said.
That's not the best definition for a centrist, and I don't know his politics. I was just picking like a big megachurch type leader.
Joel Osteen.
That might be better, maybe.
He's like, a lot of people wouldn't even say he's a Christian. A lot of people would say he just freaking tries to make everyone happy and make a bunch of money.
That was probably like centrism, and we'll talk about later as far as like the benefits of it. And centrism is normally like as far as if you're marketing yourself to people, it's the best thing to go with. Some people, like I was talking about before on Twitter, they'll get angry at them. They'll stop. You'll get people leave a message like, "Oh, I can't follow you anymore after you said this." But they will say if you're talking about economics, if you're talking about they're going to be right leaning as far as a free market, but they do also want certain controls on it. They would probably want like Social Security. They would want.
Right.
They'd want like when I think of social services. And generally, it's when I was looking it up, they're saying that normally they will lean a little bit left economics like that. They won't be a hardcore free market or even a national. They won't be necessarily for the government nationalizing businesses, but they will be for social programs. They'll be for things that they think will help people live in the right way, and then socially they're normally more right leaning, just as far because the Christian tradition, they're normally it's the nuclear family, traditional marriage. I'm trying to think of other ideas with that, but it's generally trying to accept the best parts of both things and then kind of meld them together.
All
and
right.
then have you understood anything more?
You told me we were going to talk about baseball.
Okay. Well, I messed up. I did drag him into this podcast under false pretenses because most people don't want to talk to me just off of anything else. So I'm like,
Actually, though,
As long as I get to my points against a designated hitter.
okay, yeah,
eventually.
no, we can bring that up.
I
Are you a baseball centrist or are you you sound like a baseball extremist right now?
Oh, baseball. Well, you see, you got the fastball, you got the curveball. There's a lot of different layers there. And, maybe you combine the two, you throw a slider. So a slider is like the centrist of baseball.
So I actually was thinking about baseball just a few seconds ago because with
Because he had an
centrism,
erection. He had to get his mind up.
you're right. That's right. That's
All right,
right.
just think of a pitcher throwing a ball. No, I can't. Not on camera.
Balls and bats. This isn't helping. No, but I was actually thinking about a baseball game, and there's a certain level of centrism there where everyone goes to a baseball game, everyone's happy. They're like, "Oh, support the troops," but nobody smoked weed. Nobody at the baseball announcer would never say anything about smoking weed, but they would say like, "Hey, support the troops and men and women in uniform," that kind of stuff. Is that centrist? No, am I way off again?
I don't think so. I think that's too specific an example. I think that's part.
No, any sports thing, any public gathering, ton of people, you have to be centrist.
See, okay, yeah. I mean, it's basically what I like. At least in the West, see, you got to do the point. In the West, that's normally where we kind of fall into because we don't like just having big, huge things that exclude certain half of the population. I thought you were going to say with baseball, as far as centrism, or just any sports where you do have that's a good way of looking at the economic side of it, where people are free to play a certain way, but they do want to have certain rules in the way. You can't. Actually, that's not a good example because in baseball you can steal bases, but you can't hit somebody with a bat, or you can't.
I bet you someone's gotten away with that.
Oh no, I'm sure someone's hit somebody with a bat. I haven't. I've seen those bench clearing brawl things, but I've never actually seen somebody use a bat. Because I do think you get criminal charges there. I don't know though.
Mm-hmm.
I never really know where because you get.
I had a cousin even in high school little league hockey or whatever, and I've heard stories of people whacking someone with a stick and they got to go to court.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like in Happy Gilmore, he was the first guy to ever take his skate off and try to stab somebody with it. Well,
that would not be essential.
Listen, hang on. So what you're saying is Walmart can run their business, right? And they can provide low prices, but you don't want them to drive all the mom and pop stores out, and then once they do, raise their prices to $18 for a gallon of milk.
Yeah. And the idea is not to. They're thinking me.
All right, so we solved that problem.
All right. Yeah. Podcast is done. Please leave. Donate. Send money to me, not to Daniel. Ryan is doing this completely free. Like I said, it's baseball. He's wearing a baseball shirt too. That's all he needs. Just give him a like. I guess to take it someplace. What you said about the mom and pop stuff. My argument for that, as far as what would keep Walmart from doing that, is that any mom and pop shop would then just pop right back up and then lower their prices. You couldn't then stop somebody. But monopoly laws are a good example of that, where instead of thinking or instead of believing that something like the free market would just self-regulate itself, They do
Okay.
want like protections for things. It's
Yeah, that's
liberty,
good.
but with protection.
Yeah, that's real good. That's perfect. So it's like, yeah, free market, but just in case, here's a few laws. That's centrism.
And
Okay, then these centrists are on a slippery slope because Hitler only introduced a few laws at first.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Next thing you know, dude, we got all these Polish and Italian people coming over to America.
taking all our jobs.
All our jobs,
Irish,
dude,
too.
are grape farmers. Yeah, dude, you tell me one Polish grape farmer.
Grape farmer or grape farmer?
Either.
See, I think I finally get that. That was the best example I think so far. Whether or not we get the right definition of centrism, I get what we're talking about now. When you use that example of like, oh, we totally believe in the free market, but you got to have antitrust laws.
See, yeah, and then me being more of a libertarian, I would then argue against that and say that is then, like he said, not with the Poles. I have no issue with Polish farmers. You can farm if you want.
They're great
Although,
dancers, aren't they?
What? Pole
Pole
dancers?
Pole dancers.
I don't particularly like farmers, though. So
Can you imagine like going through the yellow pages looking for like a bachelor party? You got pole dancers, and a bunch of fat accordion players show up.
with pole dancing?
It's happened.
What do you mean it's happened? Has that happened to you? Do you have issues with that? I'm going to get
I
that.
didn't say it was an issue. I just said it's happened.
Oh, so you liked it? Okay. That's what I'm getting you for your bachelor party. Is a bunch of Polish dancers with accordions. So
Do I have to smile the entire time?
no.
Okay.
So Daniel doesn't do it. Daniel just giggles and then he looks off into space for a little bit. What was I saying? I don't know.
I was just saying we finally got at least something.
No, we
clear.
did finally actually get a definition 15 minutes into it a little bit after you asked me about 2 minutes in.
What did I ask?
About what a centrist is.
Oh
I
yeah,
asked to describe.
still don't know.
I still haven't followed. Now, okay, I'll ask both of you. I'll start with Daniel. Do you think? I'm sorry. I'm trying to give you some time to get away from the Polish farmers and everything. I'm
Yeah,
trying
I'll collect my thoughts.
What do you think about that? What do you think about like? Obviously, we like the idea of taking both sides of something, but do you think that could work? Like, do you think you can meld the two kind of ideas? Can you have a free market
with antitrust laws or
Yeah.
with pro mom and pop laws and
Yeah.
stuff? No, like freak that. Like I used to work at fast food, and there was this one girl that worked there. She like refused to shop at Walmart. I mean, don't get me wrong. See, maybe you're right. That maybe this is taking the best of both things, because like Walmart's in bed with the government and they get whatever subsidies and laws in their favor. So I'm not saying I'm like all for Walmart. I'm not saying everything they do is great, but I don't think that we should legislate. Like we shouldn't like force them to like sell at certain prices. We shouldn't force them not to build a Walmart in a small town. Like that, no freaking way.
Okay. Yeah. I guess the argument against that would be who's going to stop them then. It's a...
No, I'm saying we shouldn't stop them. Oh, who's going to stop them from overpowering mom and pop?
Yeah, that would be the... Because I think that is like the centrist point of like you can have a certain amount of liberty with things, but I think it does... In this example, I don't think it across the board means this, but in this example, there is the pragmatism, the thinking that just because you give people the free rein, that doesn't mean they're going to make the right decisions. And that doesn't mean that necessarily Walmart wouldn't just take over and run things. And I guess we're kind of seeing this more, and it does have a lot to do.
Amazon runs everything. And Google and Apple.
Well, that's the thing. It's like
Facebook.
big corporations, tech companies especially, are starting to take over
So
where...
the argument that I most often hear is that it's because they're in bed with the government. That's how they get so powerful. And if we didn't have laws, if we didn't have people telling people what to do, then they wouldn't be able to become as powerful as they are, and everybody would be average. The problem with that is we don't really have any great examples of like an example of like a big company
not doing that and not having like the corporate power behind it.
Yeah, we don't have any examples of like we've never seen that happen where there was no government and nobody took over because people did take over. It's called the government. Like they're the ones that did gain that much power and all of a sudden run everything.
Yeah, and I think that's, speaking about the corporation, I remember I saw, it was actually somebody we know made a tweet a couple weeks ago, and it was right after that the shooting in Florida. The school one, not the 500 other ones that have happened there after, not the dude who stole all the oranges from that we covered last week on the main BTC show. Which is at 9 p.m. Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Every Thursday we do a live show with me, him, and then Zach, who has become now is apparently bailing on everything. So please, everybody tweet at him to stay strong. He's having some issues.
He wanted to sell all his coin. Yeah.
We're trying to get him to sell at a discount to both of us, but we'll see. But the idea, and I can see this argument even as part of like a libertarian, but it is more of a centrist libertarian. I think that is also like, you can use centrist with whatever. You can use a centrist socialist, a centrist fascist, a centrist libertarian, but it's they will accept and they do like, instead of the government making a decision to ban certain firearms, instead a corporation or a business like Dick's and then also their subsidiary, whatever it is, Field and Stream, just not selling rifles anymore. And that is almost in effect a ban on, in practice, pretty much a ban on certain assault rifles, whatever, in certain areas. It's not a de facto law that you can't sell them, but if enough companies, enough corporations get together to do it, it almost becomes that kind of a law. And
wouldn't you say though that's like the best way to do it? If you don't want people with guns taking away guns, but you don't want people to be killing each other, isn't it better to just have Dick say, we're not really in support of this and we're done, we're just not going to sell guns? Isn't that way better than people with guns taking away guns?
Yes, it's less violent, obviously, it's less like threatening, but my leaning is more that instead of, like, we are kind of letting corporations kind of run things a little bit much at this point, to me at least. Like I was saying, a lot of tech companies are starting to look at themselves as kind of like smaller governments, like Facebook and Twitter. They talk about how we're not going to be writing and developing new technology. We're going to be more focusing on developing the humanity. Yeah, exactly. It's like a community, and you could say that's a good idea if it is like this corporation actually wants to do that, but there is something to argue where, again, we're going back to the centrist thing of it's the most appealing to everybody. It is almost I just had some kind of a point. It's the centrist it's the most appealing, so they're not doing it because of any kind of actual moral like a moral belief.
I agree with that. Like Dick's, if they stop selling guns, it's not because they actually don't want guns out there. It's because they think people will like them for it. Like nobody at Dick's is actually like, yeah, these guns are terrible. We got to stop this. No one there actually is like that.
Even if it's not that, like
probably about half of them are.
Yeah, that's
just want to take a slice of the general population. Although maybe the people running a sporting goods store are, more conservative, and probably not a lot of people at Dick's are also part of PETA.
Yeah.
Friggin' hunters.
Freaking honor.
A lot of hunters are in PETA.
A lot of hunters are at Dick's. And hunters aren't in PETA.
Well, not anymore. They're not at Field and Stream, I'll tell you that much.
No, they're not. Now they're going to Cabela's or what's the other one?
Bass Pro Shops.
There you go. A better example of that, and where it is something where like certain people have beliefs on that or not, is where you get corporations like I forget when there is like a gay pride week or something, right? Or like a day.
Probably
Something
like a freaking month and a half.
Okay.
February.
That's Black
Yeah, that's
History
the
Month.
wrong one. I think so.
Black Gay Month.
Yeah.
But
So a very large minority has February.
oh yes.
Yes.
But like corporations will have like they'll change their Twitter account the picture to like a rainbow flag.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you are doing this because you probably do believe in equality for people, but there is something there still where you're like, you believe in that because you also just want people to buy stuff from you.
Yeah.
And that's where I think
That's
consumerism comes into this a little bit.
Are you saying, so if we're talking about the good thing, like trying to decide what's good about centrism and what's bad about centrism, what would you say? Is that good or bad? If Dick's, whether or not this is accurate, if Dick's is only stopping selling guns, not because they actually want to stop selling guns, but only because they think it'll make people like them. And same thing with the rainbow profile pictures. If they're whether or not they believe in gay marriage, if they're only doing it because they want people to like them, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't think it's a good thing for long term. And I still need to ask you.
About what?
About if you think
Designated hitter.
Designate that is his point here. The designated hitter.
Is it bad?
It's good in most of the examples are good in like what we see now, like the thing with the gay equality. Like I mean, I don't really care if they're selling guns or not. That's not really good or bad to me. But
Well, aren't you just doing the same thing? You're picking which issues it's good on and which issues it's bad on. So you're freaking flip-flopping here.
yeah, exactly. That's what like again this whole show is just this is going. Well, this is good. This part is bad.
Unless it's about this, then if it's about gay marriage, fine. If it's about guns, no, that's not okay.
But that's because I'm smart, and the rest of you aren't, and that's why you have to come and listen to me first to figure out your issues.
Nobody's gonna listen. If you keep telling them they're not smart, you gotta tell them they are smart for listening.
Okay, yeah, no, you have a point there. You do have a point
we,
there.
we've learned that the biggest way to, keep people listening and get more listeners is just tell them they're the best. That's tell them you love them.
We love you guys.
All right, you idiots, you're all great.
Look at you guys watching the YouTube video. So yeah, it's good in, like, what I was just saying, in practice, in certain whatever that is. But then it isn't. There's no actual moral change to the people. It's just, and that argument can be made of just all of society going in a certain way. Is that good for the average person who doesn't really have any stake in it beyond wanting to not be ridiculed on Twitter, not to be excluded from like polite society? Does that actually make a difference over the long run, or does it just come down to whatever is in favor at that time? Because you kind of see with, like, if I made this point, I think, on an episode of YMB before, where it was like, if the country was how a lot of people on Reddit and Twitter make it out to be, where they're like, this is a fascist dictator, everybody around here is a Donald Trump supporter who believes that we should just kick everybody out, then if that was everybody thinking that way, then the corporations would have Snapchat filters about kicking Mexicans out of America or how anything like that. So it's not like, I don't think that leaving a morality for yourself or believing in it, and I guess this is what I've said on every single episode, is you can take certain parts of it, but then if you do believe it in this kind of dogmatic approach of, well, this is good because we do need to make social change through Facebook, we need to make social change through Twitter, it's great if you can actually stop violence. And it seems like over the past couple of years, I mean, any statistics show that we are becoming more peaceful, less people are violently murdered, less people, there's less crime. But as soon as something happens, like if the country does get whipped up into a frenzy again, like what happened September 11th, if something like that happens, then maybe we do make the decision and everybody is behind just kind of invading a bunch of countries in the desert and just kind of blowing them up. So that would be where I would see the issue with letting yourself actually believe that they do want change and they do hold certain values, and believing the kind of the dogma that they put out, instead of just realizing, hey, they're trying to make a buck, they're trying to get their biggest audience. Same thing on Twitter. If you see somebody tweeting, most people, I doubt, actually believe most of the stuff they're putting out on Twitter. I think that they, and this is so pretentious of me to say, but I think they believe it, but in the end they do kind of want to make an exception for themselves, and therefore, like, everybody else is terrible and shouldn't be allowed to do whatever, but we, like certain people of us, we do need to have the freedom to say certain things. Like it's the whole thing with people online, both sides will do this, where they'll be like, you can't say that, that's ridiculous, you should be you're anti-American, you're anti blah 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 blah, you shouldn't be able to, we can't endorse hate speech. It's the whole, can you be tolerant of intolerance? Yeah. And then everybody makes, I'm tired of comics. I'm fine with learning my politics from Twitter, but I'm tired of everybody making comics where it's like 5 strips, and at the end you're supposed to go, oh, they just destroyed everybody by making a straw man argument.
I thought you meant like Jimmy Fallon and George Carlin, like just comedians. Can't stand them. Seinfeld, get off the air.
Well, that would almost, like, I almost was about to say Jimmy Fallon and Carlin aren't the same, but that is, again, right. Like, most entertainers are going to be some kind of a centrist, some at least more closer leaning, because they realize.
I mean, so I haven't talked for 30 minutes, but I mean, like, Jimmy Kimmel, he is like a huge liberal, and he's got one of the biggest late night talk shows out there, and it just seems, I don't know, maybe his views really did change, but he went from having The Man Show, which objectified women and is not a very tolerant approach, where this, I think the end credits or something ended with just well-endowed women jumping on a trampoline because that's what his audience wanted. And now his audience wants to hear his holier-than-thou speeches about, you know, what are we going to do about guns?
Yeah, he's like crying until.
Yeah.
No, you're right about that. But I think, like, as far as media, there is something of a disconnect, I think, between like the average middle American, like, media, the centrist, like a center is like a very hardcore liberal, and then the left is like Marxist and stuff like. Carlin just kind of complained about stuff, made fun of. Did something just? No, it was just the TV. But
we should have mentioned that earlier.
Didn't Fallon
just for fun?
Yeah, watch poker behind us if you don't find.
If you can't stand us, that's
I could
whatever.
One of those.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Right?
2?
2 of those.
Yeah, give me 2 of them. Didn't Fallon do? It was either Fallon or Kimmel did. He did like blackface in like a skit like 10 years ago or something like that. No, like that. It's been like anybody who does it. If you've ever heard of Sam Hyde or it's comedy troupe. He does a comedy troupe, $1 Million Extreme. They got a show on Adult Swim, I think 2 years ago. It was right around whenever Trump won, and he did a skit with blackface. It wasn't like super crazy. It wasn't super racist beyond that, but people were very angry about that. And then you look 20 years ago, and I guess that was more what I was meaning, where Kimmel is. He just kind of panders to whatever is allowable, and they work within whatever they're allowable. And I'm sure that he thinks that he's doing like the right thing as far as going on and crying about people dying, or we need to get rid of this, or we need to complain about.
You've got to pander to somebody, or else you don't have an audience.
Yeah.
Like, no matter, I'm not going to go on you, me, and BTC, and even if I've got the most well-crafted argument ever, I'm not going to rally against Bitcoin, even if that's what I believe, because nobody's going to be listening to you, me, and BTC that thinks like that, and I'm going to get booed off the air, which is hard to do on a radio show.
What if, yeah. What if you flip it around and say, what if someone didn't do that? What if someone wasn't pandering to anyone? What would that look like, and would that be good or bad?
That would be the ultimate. That's like, I think, like what I was saying before, I think that is the ultimate goal of everybody, is to not act like they're pandering to somebody, because then now, like I was saying about how most everybody, especially in entertainment and media, the political spectrum is much shifted to the left.
Right.
So a centrist is a very big liberal. But then
it shifted to the left among people who engage in these forms of media, like Twitter and depending on who your friends are on Facebook, you could think it's all liberal and there isn't a conservative out there. That's why you can't understand how Trump got elected without cheating, is because thousands and thousands of potato farmers in Idaho are not on Twitter.
or you're not friends with them, yeah.
Right.
Because you're not. Most people on media and stuff like that do kind of exist in an echo chamber. I mean, I do as well to a certain extent. But
so if it's broadcast, if it's like TV, then if you're watching Jimmy Kimmel, you're not friends with him, but like you're connected to him, which is different than social media, where you get to choose who you're connected to, as opposed to broadcast, where you're only connected to one person at a time, or whatever,
Yeah, and you
or a lot less people. There are a lot less TV channels than there are people on Facebook.
Yeah. And I think the pandering is more evident in that. It's not say that it's not evident on Facebook, but it's a little bit more recognizable, especially for someone on the other side, because they can say, hey, look, like, you kind of made just, like, Kimmel or any of these guys, you kind of just made them as basically a god at this point. So then whenever you do see Kimmel crying on TV, you go, I'm just so moved by this, because he's so engrossed with this, or even like the Today Show or anything like that, where we do kind of like
Al Roker, dude.
we do like to have something that is familiar to us, and to have, like, whether or not I think people start out agreeing with somebody, if you do stick with something and watch it, you do have you'll start to move over to their side. You'll start to like them, because your brain goes, oh, I'm looking at them, they're here. It's almost like they're talking to me. This is like, we're friends and whatever. So, like, we have this kind of, in broadcast, we have this kind of a look at, like, you think of Jimmy Kimmel, you don't think of him as another guy. You think of, he'd be the funniest guy at the party, but most likely he's not. Most likely he's just as boring as far as, like, what he's going to talk about there as you are, because he's going to be...
Whoa, you saying I'm boring?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I
that is
agree
what I'm
with that.
saying. That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Exactly.
Look at him.
You're right. So I'm sitting over here in the dark, stalling people. To
Yeah,
think
well,
about
we
me.
moved the lights away from him so it'd be more focused on me and my extremely red face.
Well, I want to sneak in here. So I've been on a South Park kick lately. So I watched a few seasons. I love it. It's a great show. It's funny. But I'm wondering, just because it's on my mind, I'm wondering if we can weave this in here somewhere. Where does South Park fall into all this? Because I've been trying to figure out, like, what is it? Like, obviously their style is fairly different. It's obviously very obscene, and they offend a lot of people, which maybe that means that they're not pandering to people. They don't care who they offend. They're just I've been trying to figure out like what is it that makes him different? Because even compared to Family Guy, like Family Guy is pretty offensive.
Definitely has a liberal bent to it.
Yeah,
like, much more than South Park has a conservative bent. I think that is going along with what we're talking about, how much it shifted. Like anything that
You're
is
saying
not
South Park has a conservative bent.
Yeah, they drew
a little
Muhammad.
bit more, yeah. Like more so in the public view because they aren't just completely liberal. They're probably the best definition of that center line where they go, okay, we're going to make fun of Christians, we're going to make fun of abortion, we're also going to make fun of gays, we're going to make fun of
but I would also
saying the N-word, we're going to make fun of all this stuff.
right, but I'd say that's the opposite of centrism, where they don't really take they do actually in like almost every episode they have some. It's kind of a joke. Oh, it's clearly a joke, but they're still like they actually make a point where they're like, I think I learned something here. We should just try to treat everyone nicely. And they're saying it like sarcastically, but they're serious. They're like, guys, we're being so graphic and so obscene. But seriously, like let's like just chill out and quit like freaking out about Saddam Hussein or whoever.
Saddam Hussein
No, not so
hell
much.
with his gay lover Satan.
Yeah, that was a good episode. But
Isn't that a whole movie?
Yeah, it's a bunch of episodes in all.
but I don't know, like because if you're talking about centrism, maybe there's two kinds here. There's one kind of centrism where you pander to everyone, and there's one kind of centrism where you offend everyone.
That's a form of pandering to people because you are like there are certain people who do like to laugh at everything, who do like to go, everything is kind of a joke. Everybody does have issues, but then there are.
So you're saying offending everyone is the same thing as loving everyone?
Yeah, because you're doing it to everybody.
Yeah, that's true. Because if South Park makes fun of gays, that's pandering to people that hate gays. And if South Park makes fun of Christianity, that's pandering to people that hate Christianity.
Yes, it
I don't
can.
know, but like, as a Christian, or if I was a gay person, I'd be like, oh, it's South Park.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's because you're going to look at it more objectively. But there are like, I'm sure there are people who watch South Park and go, "Yeah, no, make fun of the gays. Yeah, make fun of Christians."
Yeah, that's a good point. That might be why, at least to me anyway, I like it because even the people that they offend aren't actually being offended. They're like, when I consider myself a Christian too, and they make fun of Christians all the time, and I don't mind because I feel like it's a joke and it's whatever.
I think that's because they do it well because they do if a Christian if Christian or a gay person or whatever's being made fun of saw the South Park episode, had no context with it before, and went, oh, this is what they do, and then they think that like Family Guy where instead it is vulgar, it is whatever, but then they do hit certain things over and over again and don't do the other side.
Right.
But if you have the context of, oh, I watched this last week and they were making fun of gays, they were making fun of Democrats, now they're making fun of Republicans, you can take that and it helps you to go, oh, I just need to be a little bit less serious. They're just making fun of something. This isn't.
So is that good or bad?
I like that. I like the kind of just looking at all of us as, if not always, generally most of us don't rationally think about what we believe or what we get angry about. A lot of times, if you're getting angry about something, if you're freaking out, if you're going on Twitter and then you're yelling about either Hillary or Trump, it's because you're looking at this and you found one article or you're looking at it as this very black and white thing of, excuse me.
So,
all right.
If you go on Twitter, type in like hashtag MAGA and just start scrolling, you're gonna see a ton of people who are pretty like weird, like they're like stuck in their heads, like obsessive, and you're saying that might be the bad thing, and the good thing is even if
I don't even know what MAGA. That's like a Japanese cartoon book comic.
Yeah, Make America Great Again is what I was.
The Make America Great Again comic
Just
book.
kidding. That's manga.
But
You can use that one.
I'm
Still
saying
listening 44 minutes in.
Last one was an hour, so if they made it this far, they'd probably still like it better.
yeah, we just need to start offending everyone, and we're golden. But no, you're saying I'm not sure yet if I agree. I'm just clarifying if this is what you're saying. that if someone's obsessive about something and thinks they're right about everything, that's probably bad. But if you're South Park type of mentality where you're like, let's make fun of everything because we don't really know good or bad, or we care less, then that might be better, where you're kind of admitting, like, look, this is all pretty crazy. And
it's people taking themselves too seriously, and that would be the kind of centrism that I would be, like, that is the good part of it, is realizing that you can't make decisions based on your emotional state. You can't make decisions because something about somebody else bothered you. You can't just... You can. I can't say that you can't because we do it all the time. But you're not... It's not the best, in my viewpoint, to force other people to agree with you constantly, because then you won't actually be changing anybody's mind. You won't actually be... like you were saying with the South Park, like it's vulgar, they make fun of everything, but then in the end they do go, hey, like, we made fun of people the entire time. We showed Mr. Slave with a hamster, like, shoved up his butt the entire time. But, I mean, I don't know that's a message from any of those ones, but they're also like, you don't, like, lynch people because you hate them. Maybe you make fun of them, maybe you do this, but if we all kind of just make fun of each other, we make fun of ourselves, that's the big thing, is being able to realize...
So you're a hippie. You're like, just chill out, everything will be fine. Like,
no, because hippies freaked out about it.
Don't lynch people, and we're all cool, bro.
Hippies were like, we need to take acid and weed, and it's going to fix all of the world's problems. And if we just...
Well, if everyone was just too high to shoot anyone else...
I mean, sometimes people need to get shot, Ryan. That's also the centrist part. No, I don't know. But,
oh, we better hope people aren't listening 46 minutes in.
If I don't wake up tomorrow, you know why.
Yeah, no, I eventually, I just killed... He asked me to, actually. You didn't hear. It was off camera. Daniel is done with this life. You can send all of your donations you're going to send to him to me. What was I saying? Don't actually go out and kill people, please. It's my view of, like, what would be good, what a good part of centrism, a good viewpoint to have, is to realize that your viewpoint probably isn't in the center. You probably do fall to a certain side. You probably do have certain topics that you view as taboo, that you never want to look at the other opinion, and if someone has a dissenting opinion to that, you hate them. You will completely disregard their opinion. The bad part of having a centrist approach is you kind of do get left in a place where you can't then make an emotional argument. You can't
can't commit to any beliefs because they're like, well, that might be wrong, that might be wrong.
Yeah, and you can't tell other people, hey, this is definitely wrong. That people like that, where they can be just told, I don't really have to think about this. I don't have to consider it. I don't have to look at different nuances to things. I can just go, this is always wrong, this is always right, and that's a much easier approach than just kind of applying some kind of logic, if we even ever do that, to any different situation. So the bad part is you lose that emotional drive, which seems to have been what has made most, like, accomplishments in the world happen. Generally, the greatest things in the world don't get built because people are like, we could do whatever, or let's just all kind of...
Yeah, hippies don't frickin' build empires.
Well, I still don't like hippies. I still don't like the...
That's what I'm saying. They don't commit to anything. They don't...
Are we talking like Woodstock hippies? Or
that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking like Woodstock hippies, which is, again, that's like more of a liberal side of thing, where it's... Because even them arguing that we all just need to get along isn't... We need to get along and then figure out our differences. Their get along is you just need to accept that I'm going to sit here and just smoke a bunch of weed, and then I want you to just work and then support certain things for me. We need to have a guaranteed income. We need to have whatever. And this will all somehow make society better if we just love each other whatever that means. I think like the good part is maybe my argument is that not to focus on the love part of accepting everybody's arguments, but more accepting that you're probably wrong about things and not to take your, because we all have
You're probably wrong about that.
Yeah, exactly. We all have preconceived preferences for something, whether that's because of the way we were raised or something that happened to us. And realizing that just because you feel this certain way doesn't mean that it's necessarily true, and that's okay. That's fine. You can believe it. You can live your life that way, but you can't use that. You can't use your emotional outrage at something to force people to exist how you want them to exist, because I don't know why you can't do that, but I don't particularly like it. I don't particularly like social despots and people who, not necessarily through like a threat of violence, but a threat of like physical exclusion from society, because even then, like that's more, I think, where we're going to in like modern day, is it's not we're going to come and throw you in jail for having this opinion, but we want to, whether it's you're on the right side or the left, get out of here. You're not allowed to be part of society. We're not going to, you're of no use to me as a person because you voted for Trump, or because you voted for Hillary, or because you're a globalist or a nationalist or whatever. Believe whatever you want. Believe that we're all better to join hands and sing, or that we're all better to kind of just chill with our own people and to make whatever relationships that we want, and to be with people that we think are like us. But don't then take that as some kind of like a hard and fast rule for how you think. The problem there is you don't have the same kind of passion for whatever it is you believe that somebody on either one of those sides can legitimately make inside their own heads, because of they don't have any problem with letting their emotions get to be part of the thing. And that is, I think, throughout history, probably the most powerful motivating factor for most things is emotional outrage, whether either way it goes, instead of going, hey guys, we have to have this logical, rational decision making on this issue, and then we're going to decide it. Pitch hitters.
Designated hitter.
I'm sorry.
That's what I get most fired up about. Taken away from the integrity of the game.
Make the pitchers hit.
Exactly.
That's the truth, man. We just laid it on them.
Now send us all your money, because I know how to spend it better than you do.
The funny thing is, Tim always says, send us money, send us donations, but the only address on the website is mine. So, I mean, yeah, send it.
Okay, we'll put mine on there.
Send Daniel, send Daniel troll coin. And then I also heard about on a different podcast, there's a kill yourself coin now. Which the idea is that as you send more coins to somebody, it has a built-in deflationary value, because if the person kills themselves, then those coins are forever lost. So then it does shrink the entire market space.
All right.
But if there were fewer coins, wouldn't that make the value of each coin go up?
Yeah. So then that means if I don't kill myself, which is a big question mark right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You said deflationary.
Yeah. I don't know words. I just say things.
No. That's why I don't know if I just didn't hear the D or what. So the idea there is it's like some sort of real life immersion into a cyberspace game where you get these people to kill each other in real life, and then your fake internet money is now worth more.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just it's global economic politics on a smaller scale.
Right.
You're trying to short their life currency. I don't know though. I listened to like 20 minutes of another podcast, and I don't have that great of a grasp on it. But I want you guys to
I
send
think
it to
we
Daniel.
pretty well summed it up. Yes, just donate via kill yourself currency. That must have been an interesting ICO sales pitch.
Yeah, besides that, I don't really know what else to... I feel like I've said the same thing over and over again.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
I am the ultimate centrist, as is everybody. I'm completely logical in my decisions. I am void of emotion. Is it the Vulcans? I was about to say the Klingons. But
There's some people out there getting really upset.
Don't be a Star Trek extremist either. Be a centrist. We can do advice of just laugh at yourself and remember that. Daniel said this to me yesterday. You need to remember that all of us, go into the bathroom. Did you just get away? And we burp and we poop and we piss, and just remember that the next time you think you're having a deep, emotional or a deep understanding of the workings of other people, and remember that you're going to be sitting on a toilet for like 5 to 10 minutes trying.
That's probably where I came up with the understanding.
That's in the shower. Because you also sweat.
Busy doing other things.
No matter how high and mighty you are, you still every couple hours gotta go take a whiz or sit around and excrete for a while.
Excrete.
So you're not really that high and mighty. That's all I'm trying to say.
You have any advice about pitch hitters?
Does anybody else hear that phone ringing? Can someone answer that?
Or we could just yell and see if...
You ever take calls on this show?
Hello, Ryan, what's going on?
I've been waiting for you to come back. Hopefully to redeem yourself from your last performance. Is the air conditioner kicking on or something? Why'd the air conditioner be on this night where we are?
Yeah, I don't know. But it is worth mentioning on that note that we are outside, so you're probably hearing all kinds of stuff on this mic. Hearing us roll around in our chairs and freaking...
Who's rolling?
There's a
Just
raccoon fighting a possum over an acorn.
Yeah, there are
earlier.
coyotes all over the place.
Yeah, we've been watching a full animal dog fight out here. We're fighting raccoons now.
Yeah, Mike Vick is over there in the corner.
So get him!
Well, is that a wrap, or where are we at here?
Yeah, I think so. Bye, guys. Again, on Thursday, find us
Question
live.
asked, but that's fine. Didn't really have an answer.
What was your question?
You said you're gonna ask Dan something, then ask me the same thing.
Yeah, I thought like you kind of jumped in. Ryan, what do you think centrism is a good idea?
So that's a wrap. Catch us next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Ugh.
Told y'all.